Hello YouTube, my name is Daniel and welcome back to another video. In this video I will be refactoring my photo notes application to use RealmDB instead of RoomDB. If any of you guys haven't checked out the full series for my photo notes app, which uses Jetpack Compose, Room Database and dependency injection with Hilt, then please do check out the link in the description. But first off, to get started, we will need to add the RealmDB dependencies to our project. So in your Gradle project file, you first need to add this plugin here under dependencies, class path Gradle plugin. Then in your build.gradle file, make sure you have these dependencies here for coroutines with Realm and also the Realm library. And also under plugins, you need to add in ID Realm Android. So first off, to get started, I'm going to go ahead and delete the notes database class as this is no longer needed. And we can now start providing our RealmDB to our application. This will be done in our photo notes app class where we create all of our dependencies. And we will refactor this getDB function. And this function will return a Realm configuration. And we'll keep this logic here. If the DB is not null, return the DB. Otherwise, we'll create an instance of our DB. To do that, we first need to initialize Realm. So that'll be realm.init. Pass in the instance of our app to get the application context. And we can get rid of the room database builder here. And this will be Realm configuration. .builder, and then we can supply the schema version, which will be 1, and then call .build, and we will just return the DB. For the getDAO function, we will return a class which we haven't built yet, and that will be called note, and this will take a parameter which will be the DB, so that will be instance .getDB. So let's go ahead and create that class. We will put this in the persistence package and we will select new Kotlin class /file and this will be called note_db realm. In order to make sure we include every CRUD function of our app, so create, read, update and delete, we can use our notes.dao from Room and just implement this as an interface. So we can get rid of all of these annotations here, as we no longer need them, and just use this as an interface. And we get rid of the add.dao function. The logic of this interface will change slightly as we're no longer going to be using live data, and this will just return a list of notes. So now we can go back to the note_db realm class and we can implement that interface. We can implement all of these functions and also add our parameter, which will be private val realm configuration. And now we've created this class and implemented the interface. We can go back to our photo notes app and import the class. And this way we can provide our note_db realm class when the rest of the app is looking for the notes.dao. And for this private value here, we'll just change this to realm configuration. There we go. And we just need to remove this import. Now, before we can start implementing the methods here in our notes.dao, we will need to make some changes to our model. This is the model here, which is currently using Room, and we need to refactor this to use Realm. We can no longer use a data class, it will be a open class, and these will not be parameters, they will actually be fields in this class. So we can get rid of these commas here. And we can get rid of the column names. We can remove the table name up here. And this will need to implement realm object. And all of your objects that will be in your realm DB will need to inherit from this class. And that is realm object. And we will need to initialize here. So if a string is null, we'll just use an empty quotes. Date updated will be get date created. We then have the image URI, which will be set to null. And we need to add in one more value for is placeholder. And that'll be var is placeholder. And that will be a boolean, which will be initialized as false. And these will need to change to var, as that is how we can update the fields in our object. There won't be any parameters, so we can remove this, and we can remove all of these unneeded imports. And now at the bottom of this file, I'm just going to add some methods that we will use in our UI to display the list of notes, as this will change as we're no longer using live data. So the first one will be placeholder list, and that will be a list of notes, and that will be a single note with the following details. The title will be no notes found. The note will be please create a note. Is placeholder will be set to true. The ID will be set to 0. And we don't need these columns here. And the next one is just an extension function to provide the placeholder or the list of notes if it is empty. So list of note question mark dot or placeholder list, and this will return a list of notes, and that will be return if this is not null and this is not empty. We will return the list, otherwise we will return the placeholder list. And now we've refactored our model to use realm, we can look at implementing the functions in our notes DAO. So we go back to our notedb realm class, and now we can start on the getNoteById function. In order to get a note by the ID, we will first need to get an instance of our realmDB, which will be realm.getInstance, and pass in the realm configuration, which is the parameter in the constructor, and we will return realm.where note class.java equal to, and pass in the field ID and then the ID, and we also want to use the findFirst method to retrieve the first node that it finds, as this will retrieve a list of nodes. And just going back to our model class here, we will need to update the ID as it will not be an int, and this is because IDs do not auto-generate in Room, and we need to provide a random ID every single time if we want to be able to differentiate between our nodes. In order to do that, we can generate a random ID using the UUID class. So that will be UUID, note.random toString, and that will give us a unique identifier for all of our notes. And in order to make sure our notes update correctly, we'll also need to add an annotation to our ID to make it the primary key. So that'll be @primary_key, and this will be from the realm annotations bit here, and that will ensure that we can't have two notes with the same ID. And then we just need to update this here to a string. There we go. Now back to our NoteDB realm class, and we can start on the getNotes function. So in order to retrieve our notes, we will again need an instance of our realmDB, and that is the same for all of these functions. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste it. So for getting our notes, we will first initialize our notes, which will be a mutable list of notes. Now we can execute a transaction to retrieve our notes. We'll call this value transaction. And we can call notes.addAll realm transaction, and this is using the addAll method. So addAll note class.java and find all, and this will need to be sorted by the date of notes, so that'll be date updated, and then we want to sort it descending, so that'll be sort.descending, and that is how we can sort a list of data in realm. So first off, you need to retrieve it, add in your where clause, and then we can do find all sorted, put in your field, for me which is date updated, and then pass in your sort key, for me is sort descending. Now let's see what's wrong with this. So we don't need this extra bracket here, we can remove that, and that should be wrapping around all of the queries there, so the where clause and also the find all sorted. We should have this extra bracket down here, and then when that is finished, we can then return our notes. Next, for deleting the note, we again need to call realm.execute transaction, and we will initialize our query, which will be note query, as we want to find the note for this ID, and that will be realm results, and the type will be note ? as the note might not be in our DB, and that will be transaction.where note class.java equal to, and then the field name, which is ID, and then the note ID. And then at the end, we can use the findAll method to retrieve the notes. And then to delete, we need to call note.query.delete all from realm to delete all the notes with that. Now for updating and inserting a note, we'll be using the exact same method in realm. So update note will be calling insert note, and I'm doing it this way so I don't have to create more functions. I can simply just implement the same interface and not have to change any part of the UI for updating a note. And the delete note function will no longer return an int, so we can remove that also, and also from the update note, and we just need to update the interface. So note.dao, and just remove these here. And back to inserting the notes, we will call realm.execute transaction, transaction.insert or update, and pass in the note. And for the update function, we don't need this instance here. We will just call insert note and pass in the note. And that is all of the functions for our NotesDB implemented in Realm. Now we just have to update the viewModel and the UI just to use the new implementation. So firstly, in the Notes viewModel, we will no longer have this live data value, and that will be replaced with a function called getNotes, and that will return db.getNotes. Now, in our old implementation using Room, we were retrieving and editing all of our notes on the background thread. In Realm, all objects need to be retrieved on the same thread that they were created on, so we can't be using the background thread and then retrieving on the main thread, or editing details on the main thread, etc, etc. So Realm is completely safe for this type of app to be used on the main thread. It doesn't cause any slowdown, as this is only just a Notes application. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the threading stuff in this class, and we will just be using the main thread. So for the delete note function, we just remove this viewModelScope.launch and just simply call db.deleteNote. The same for the update function. For the create note, we also don't need it, but we will need to create an additional note. So that will be val note equals note dot apply. This dot title will be the title we pass in the parameters. Then we have the note, which will be the note, followed by the image URI, which will be image URI. Then for inserting the note, we will simply call db.insertNote and pass in the note. Now for retrieving a single note, this will no longer need to be a suspend function, as this will be run on the main thread, so we can remove suspend and then also remove it from the interface. So just like that. And that should be our viewModel all completed and refactored. We can now go ahead and start refactoring the UI. So I'm going to start off with the notes list composables, as that is where we retrieve the list of notes, and we are no longer using live data, so there will be some changes. So for our notes, it will no longer be using observer state, it will just be using a normal remember block. And inside that, it will be a mutable state of viewModel.getNotes, just like that. The on icon click here will no longer need to be a question mark. It can simply just be notes value is not empty. We can remove the empty list bit here, as it is no longer needed. Now we can go down here, see if there's any other errors that we might have. See there's a few. So on click here, when we retrieve the note, to navigate to that note ID, we just need to make some changes. So first off, we just need to change this if check here. We're not going to check against the ID, we're just going to check whether the note is a placeholder. So if it's not a placeholder, we will allow these to navigate to the detail screen, just using the note ID to string. And we just need to change our nav directions to accept strings instead of ints. So I'm just going to do that now. Before that, I'll just change this bit here. So if note dot is placeholder, this will stay the same. And let's get this changed. So note detail navigation, this will be a string. And the same for our edit one. And we no longer need these functions here. Get those removed. Now we can go back to the note list and remove this redundant method here. For this, we just need to add in the double exclamation marks, as we already checking it's not null. And we just got a few more issues here. Just need to import this method, remove this here. Delete dialog for our notes. Once we've deleted all of the notes, we just need to make sure that we retrieve the latest copy of our notes. And to do that, we just need to do notes.value equals viewModel.getNotes. And that will update the notes if any of them are deleted. And that should be all we need for our notes photo list. And now we can go ahead and look at the note edit page. So we've got a few more things to change in here. So let's take a look. So our placeholder is now changed as it is in the note class. And in order to access that, we just need to make a few changes here. So we'll just have a val called placeholder, and that will equal everything in here, just like that. And for our placeholder list, we can just call placeholder. Now if we go back to our edit note function, we can just add the placeholder, and that should get rid of some of our errors. The get note ID will be placeholder again. And this no longer needs to be using dispatches.io or a coroutine scope, as it will be run on the main thread. So we can remove this scope up here and continue solving the errors. So viewModel update note, and we will need to change this slightly, as we will need to edit the fields. So we can use note apply, copy this, paste it in here, and make some changes. So this will just be list.note. And then we can remove all of the commas. And that should be all we need for the update note function. And now we can check out the note detail page, see if there's anything to change in here, and there is. So we just need to add in the placeholder and remove the scope.launch. Just like that. For this arrow, we will just remove this bit here and get rid of the incorrect import. Now let's check out the create note page, see if there's any changes needed. It's all looking fine so far. Nothing can be shared composable. So looking at the main activity, there's just a few things we need to change here. For the navigation types, instead of ints, we'll be using strings, as the ID in realm is a string. So this will need to be navtype.stringtype. And the same for the edit page. And also for our backstack entry, when we retrieve the arguments, we will need to retrieve strings and not ints. So get string here. And also change the parameters. So change parameters to string. And for the note detail screen as well. And now we've made these changes, there's just a few things we're probably going to need to update in our viewModel. So let's go ahead and look at the edit note page. We can see here viewModel.getNote is expecting a int, but it's now a string. So let's change that parameter like that. And we will also need to update this up the chain as well. So this will expect a string. Everything in the viewModel appears to be fine. The edit note page is okay. Note detail okay. Note list is fine. And we get no errors on there either. So I'm going to run the app now, and let's see if our app is working completely fine in Realm. Now, before we start testing the app, we can actually go ahead and delete a few things. We no longer need the converters class, as this will not be used with Realm, so we can delete that. And we also don't need a few other things in our constants, such as the table name and the database name, so those can be removed. And now I'm going to run the app and test it using Realm. Right, so we've got an error here. It's just a small one. Just need to remove the suspend modifier for that function. Get note by ID. And that should be enough to get our app started, and then we'll go from there. So we can see the notes application can run correctly as we have the note placeholder in here. Let's see if we can go ahead and create a note. So I'll give this a title of test note and a body of note. Let's hit save, and we can see we have a note here. Let's see if we can edit it. This will be called test note 1 and note 1. We can see the body and the title have been updated. If we go back to the list, we can see the update has been reflected. So let's see if we can add an additional note. This will be called note 2. Let's save that. And we can see we have our second note. I'm just going to add a third so we can test all of the delete operations, such as the delete all and deleting a single note. This will be called test note 3. Let's hit save. So we see we've got 3 notes in our list. Let's see if we can delete one of them. We can see the note has disappeared from our list, and it has been deleted. Now let's see if we can delete the remaining 2 notes. And we can do that by selecting the trash can icon up here. And we can select delete all notes. If we click yes, we can see that all notes have been deleted, and we now have the placeholder back on our list. We want to create another note. We just go in here, select test, and hit save. And we can see a note has been created. So that is the DB of the Photo Notes app entirely refactored to using Realm. I will add a link in the description for the code for this project, as it is on a separate branch. So if you have any issues, please do check out that branch, or just post a comment and let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like the video and please subscribe.